Hi everyone, I hope you all are great. Today we will have semicolons, colons, and commas. First, you have to log in using the aplusstudent.com. Click on your name, move on to language at the grade 8. Chapter is semicolons, colons, and commas. Lesson will be use semicolons, colons, and commas with list, and use semicolons and commas with separate clauses. Okay, so use a colon to introduce a list after an independent clause. So when you have independent clause, you can use colon to introduce the list. If a list does not follow an independent clause, do not use punctuation to introduce the list. So my parents have visited much of Western Europe, that is Austria, Belgium, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, and Spain. Now, my parent has visited much of Western Europe, including Austria, Belgium. So as you can see, it says including. So it does not follow an independent clause. So since it doesn't follow an independent clause, you do not need to add your colon. But of course, if it follows an independent clause, then you have to add your colon. Okay, so that is for the colon, and then next up we have commas. So use commas to separate three or more items in a series, but put a comma after each item in the list, except for the last one. So if you have a series, you have to put a comma for each, except for the last. Okay. So we have our speakers will be Kelvin O'Malley. We have a comma next. Rachel Steen and Linda Wu. So as you can see, for Linda, there's no comma. So you have to put a comma for each of the series except the last one. So that is the step for the commas. And then for the semicolons, you have to use semicolons to separate items in a series when using commas would be unclear. So such as when one or more item in the series already contain comma. So if you have like a series and it already has comma, and if you would add comma, it will make it unclear. So you have to use a semicolon. So our speakers will be Kelvin O'Malley, an English professor. Then you put your semicolon. Then Richard Stein, a print journalist, and then Linda Wu, a blogger. So as you can see, imagine if you had put like a lot of comma, it will make this series unclear and all over the place. So it's good as you would use a semicolon and then it balances it. So let's look at some examples. Alright, so add commas, semicolons, or colon if needed. Otherwise, submit the text without any additional punctuation. So we literally have like some empty boxes here, and it gives us where we need to include something. So we have some of history's most famous spies include Francis Walsingham, who spied for Queen Elizabeth I dash. So we have a box. Nathan Hale, who spied during the Revolutionary War. Then we have an empty space, and Bell Boyd, who gathered intelligence during the Civil War. So as you can see now, it has a series and it already has comma. So if we keep on using comma, it will be unclear. So the best thing to use here is your semicolon. Okay. So we have Mr. Dunson grows a variety of medicinal herbs in his garden. So we have an empty space here. Chamomile, echinacea, lavender, feverfew, and lemon balm. So what's gonna be here? All right. So as you can see here, we have a column. Okay. So after golfer Jack Nicklaus went professional in 1962. He won the Masters tournament 6 times, dashed the Professional Golfers Association of America Championship 5 times, dashed the US Open 4 times, dashed the British Open 3 times. So what would be the right one over here? So we have what? Commas. So it would be more suitable if we use commas because it's like a series. Okay. So let's move to the test. Share your answers with me. So what do we have here? So add a comma, semicolon, or colon if needed. Otherwise, submit the text without any additional punctuation. Mr. Dunton grows a variety of medicinal herbs in his garden. So what will be the right one? Is it colon, space, or colon? All right, so we have colon. So when Windsor went to France, he visited the palace, the Père Lachaise cemetery, where his favorite writer Oscar Wilde is buried, and the Louvre. So is it semicolon, space, or colon? All right, so we have semicolon. Some of history's most famous spies include Francis Walsingham, who spied for Queen Elizabeth, Dash Nathan Hill, who spied during the Revolutionary War, Dash and Bell Board, who gathered intelligence during the Civil War. So is this semicolon, space, or colon? Okay, so we have semicolon. Okay, so this one. After golfer Jack Nicklaus went professional in 1962, he won the Masters tournament 6 times, the Professional Golfers Association of American Championship 5 times, the US Open 4 times, and the British Open 3 times. Commas, space, or column. So we have commas here. Alright, that's it for this lesson. We'll move on to the next one. It's just 4 questions under this. So the next is use semicolons and commas to separate clauses. Okay, so we have use a comma to separate two independent clauses that are joined with a coordinating conjunction, such as an or but so. So however, if the coordinating conjunction joins verb or verb phrases in a compound predicate, a comma should not be used. So we have Wyatt was reserved around new people, but he was hardly shy. So we have a comma joining the two independent clauses. Then Wyatt was reserved around new people but was hardly shy. So now this is joined by verb phrases. Okay. So now we also have also used a comma to separate a dependent clause and an independent clause when the dependent clause comes first. So if the dependent clause comes first, you have to use the comma to separate them. These dependent clauses usually start with a subordinating conjunction such as after, although, because, unless, until, words like that. Those are the subordinating conjunctions. So if any of them is starting the sentence, you have to put a comma in between. So we have although while was reserved around new people, he was hardly shy. So as you can see, although is a subordinating conjunction. So basically the first part is a dependent clause. All right, so then you use a semicolon to connect two closely related independent clauses that are not joined with a coordinating conjunction. Just like Wire was hardly shy, he was simply reserved around new people. So if they are not joined with a coordinating conjunction, you can use a semicolon. Also use a semicolon to connect two independent clauses that are joined with a conjunctive adverb such as consequently, however, therefore, you know, words like that. So nevertheless, you can use a semicolon. So while was highly shy, nevertheless he was reserved around new people. All right, let's look at the examples. So add a comma or semicolon if needed. Otherwise, submit the text without any additional punctuation. As William chopped chopped the cilantro for the chili, that shredded the cheese for the quesadillas. So is it gonna be comma or semicolon? So we have comma. Okay. The surface of Mars looked like a desert dash, but it's actually extremely cold with nighttime temperature as low as minus 115 Fahrenheit. So what are we gonna have here? Actually, we have a comma here because it's joined by a coordinating conjunction, but. We have WildLeaks is a whistleblower website where people anonymously report illegal wildlife trade. That site may prove effective in the fight against wildlife crime. Dash, however, it requires internet access in order to be useful. So basically, we can even see the conjunctive adverb here, however. So we're going to have a semicolon. So moving on to the test, you can share your answers with me. We have Miss Sandoval saw the Bitterroot National Forest. She had no idea how stunning the landscape is in Idaho. So is it comma, dot, or space? All right, so we have before, so we have a dependent clause, we will have comma. Mother yaks climb to higher altitude than do males or female without calves. Space, then researchers believe the steep mountain slopes may help protect calves from predators and provide a richer source of food. Is it semicolon dot or space? Okay, so we have a semicolon. Okay. Wow Leak is a whistleblower website where people anonymously report illegal wildlife trade. The site may prove effective in the fight against wildlife crime. Dash, however, it requires internet access in order to be useful. Semicolon dot or space. What is the right one? Alright, we have a semicolon. William chopped the cilantro for the chili, Dash shredded the cheese for the quesadilla. So is it comma dot or space? All right, so we have comma. Leonardo Pisano Bigolo, also known as Fibonacci, did not actually discover Fibonacci number, but he did popularize them by including them in his work Liber Abici. So is it comma, dot, or space? So it's drawn by coordinating conjunction, so we have comma. Okay. The surface of Mars may look like a desert, but it's actually extremely cool with nighttime temperature as low as minus 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So what do we have? Comma, dot to space. Okay, so we have what, comma, because it's joined by a coordinating conjunction. Okay, that's it for our lesson today under semicolons and commas. Can you tell me if you have any question? All right, so since we have no questions, we'll end here. See you all next time. Bye, everyone.